IndiGo Flight 6E5325 is flying from Mumbai to Chennai with 186 people on board. Everything seems fine as the Airbus A321 starts its descent towards Chennai. But then, the tail hits the runway, causing a tail strike, and nearly leads to a disaster. This isn't the first time for India's biggest airline, IndiGo, and it's happened several times before, surprisingly with the same aircraft just a few months prior. Let's go through what happened. On 8th of March this year, IndiGo Flight 5325 took off from Mumbai's airport, a busy place that handles over 50 million passengers a year. It was a regular flight to Chennai, just over 1,000 kilometers and usually taking less than 2 hours. Before the departure, the plane went through all of its checks and there were no problems reported. It had returned to service on February 6, 2025 after being out for over 5 months for repairs from a previous issue. At around 11:50 am, it left the gate and then took off from runway 27. The weather on this day was clear, everything looked fine, and air traffic control approved the flight to head southeast to Chennai. The takeoff went as planned, suggesting a normal flight ahead. Then, fast forward to 1:55 pm, the plane is on final approach to Chennai's International Airport, another large airport that sees over 20 million travelers per year. It approaches runway 25, a 3.6 kilometer runway. The conditions are good, with clear skies and 33 degrees of temperature. There's a light wind of 5 to 10 knots and the visibility is over 10 kilometers. The runway is also dry, so there are no obvious reasons for any trouble. But then, something goes wrong during the landing. The tail of the Airbus A321 made contact with the runway, causing a tail strike. This implied that the back part of the aircraft hit the ground. Early reports suggested that the pilot raised the nose too much, causing the tail to touch down. Later, they found marks on runway 25 showing where it had happened, extending several meters. The pilots managed to stop the plane safely despite the issue. All 186 people on board were fine and got off at the terminal normally. Many probably didn't know that there was a problem until much later on. The plane, however, had visible damage to its rear section and was moved to a hangar for a detailed check. Air traffic control had stopped activity on runway 25 for a short time to look for debris, but then it reopened within an hour. This was just the beginning of a larger issue. Now, let's look at this specific aircraft, VTIBI. IndiGo got this A321 Neo in February of 2023, but it's had problems before. On September 9th of 2024, it had a tail strike during takeoff from Delhi, which kept it out of service for over 5 months, until repairs on it were completed by the 6th of February 2025. Then, just over a month later, it seemed to have this issue once again in Chennai. The A321 is longer than most airplanes in the Airbus A320 family. It's about 7 meters longer than the Airbus A320. This extra length means that the landing has to be done more carefully. If the nose goes up too far, the tail can hit the ground. The pilots need to manage it well, and with VTIBI having this happen twice, it makes you wonder what's going on. So what's caused this tail strike in Chennai? Now, as of April 2025, India's Accident Investigation Bureau is still looking into it. But there are some ideas. One possibility is how the pilot handled the landing. With an Airbus A321, you have to lower it just right. Raising the nose too much can make the tail hit the runway. The training could also be a part of it. In July of 2023, IndiGo was fined 30 lakh rupees after several tail strikes, and the aviation authorities said that their pilot training and maintenance needed improvement. Then, there is the aircraft VTIBI itself. It suffered 2 tail strikes in less than a year. One during takeoff at Delhi and then one during landing at Chennai. Is this just a coincidence, or is there actually some sort of an issue with the plane? This is what the investigation that's ongoing is trying to figure out. Let's explain what a tail strike is. It's when the tail of a plane touches the ground during takeoff or landing. This doesn't happen often, maybe once or twice in 10,000 flights, but it's a problem when it does. The tail has important parts, like the structure that keeps the cabin pressure and a small backup engine called the APU. So any damage can keep a plane out of service for several months. It's also about how the plane is angled. For an Airbus A321, if the nose goes past about 11 degrees during landing or 13 degrees during taking off, the tail can hit the ground. This plane being longer means that there is less room for mistakes. They usually put a small protector on the tail, but this doesn't always help enough. For most airlines, it just means more repairs and delays. This isn't the only time. IndiGo has had at least 6 tail strikes with its A321s in the last 2 years. They are the biggest airline in India, with over 300 planes and flights all over, but even they can have issues such as these. The investigation isn't just about this flight. It's checking IndiGo's training, crew decisions, and how they maintain planes. This tail strike in Chennai might be part of something bigger, but we can only know once the investigation is completed and the report is out. As of now, VTIBI, the aircraft, is off duty, waiting to see if it can fly again.